Hello, Booktube. I thought I would respond to RiffRaffs Booktube questions nobody asked until now. So I often look at RiffRaffs Booktube videos, which are really interesting, and the tag is inspires a few thoughts. So I'll see what I can come up with. I have to keep looking at the list, I'm afraid, because I can't memorize it. So, owning books older than yourself. Yes, I've got a few. The main one, I think, I would like to mention, I acquired as it was it's this. It looks very old. It's music manuscript book. It's bound copies actually of a few the Scottish tunes, and they come from Neil Gow. Neil Gow, if you know about Scottish fiddle music, you'll know about Neil Gow, very famous. And you can tell it's old script. So when was it published? Well, about 1805 this goes back to. So it's pretty old. And in fact, it is signed by Neil Gow's son, Nathaniel Gow. So that's a real treasure. Somebody's bound up various copies together. That's what's happened with it. And it's come from Westminster City Libraries, where it's gone through various libraries and then been sold off. And I got it from the British Library in Boston Spa. And it's a real delight to have that, especially signed by Nathaniel Gow. I've got a few other old odds and sods. This is Reading, Writing and Remembering by E.V. Lucas. I must admit I haven't read this. 1930s this was published. And it's literary criticism. And it's loads of people from, I think, as it talks about Conrad, Charles Lamb, Arnold Bennett. Yeah, it looks good. It looks interesting. So I might read that, but I haven't read it yet. I must admit, I have not read that. So I'll go on to the next question. I know I'm having to juggle about with things here a little bit. Favourite and least favourite Booktube videos. I think some of it boils down to whether a person is able to communicate, and the timbre of their voice actually makes a big difference. Now, I don't know if I'm any good at this, judging by the number of people who look at my videos, possibly not. But that makes a difference to me. Somebody with a uncongenial sound of voice, screechy voice, or a hesitant and and an R in and that all the time, which I must admit I'm doing at the moment, it's slightly off-putting. But I'll give anybody a try. And over long videos, I'm afraid, can you anything over 40 minutes, I don't know. I might watch it if it's good. And of course, favourites, Steve Donahue and people like that, and Michael K. Vaughan, just because, well, Steve's obviously very erudite and well informed, and you learn something all the time. And he's got a sense of humour and that as well. And I'm no expert on anything, so I learn a lot from that. And Michael K. Vaughan, just the style of his presentation with Roger. This is my version of Roger here, but you know, so Roger's great, and all that is good fun. Even though I don't read comic books or anything like that, really, to be honest. But I'm quite happy to go along with a good video, and somebody who's got some enthusiasm. That always helps as well. That is very persuasive, isn't it? Somebody you can tell is really enjoying what they're talking about and wants you to read it. And yeah, there's one or two I've come across where it's ones where they say how to read Shakespeare or what you didn't know about Byron. And I'm not going to look at them. I don't want to be patronised. I probably know as much about it as the person delivering it, to be honest. So no, I don't like those. An obvious clickbait. It's, you know, the one thing people get wrong about James Joyce, you know, and then ... No, I thought, no, thank you. Okay, books about books. Yeah, I do like books about books, and in fact, I suppose that's why we watch Booktube videos. One I quite like is this. It's just getting down. Alberto Manguel, a reading diary, a year of favourite books. Does The Island of Dr. Moreau. Which is a little bit unexpected. H.G. Wells. Sign of Four by Conan Doyle. Kim. So he just picks some pillow book, say Shanaghan, and various others. And it's always interesting to hear some recommendations again, and that's in book form. So yeah, I think he's specialised in that kind of book. Alberto Manguel, a reading diary. Okay, once more. The best international literature. I've read quite a lot of pretty varied, always in translation, a bit of literature from, you know, for instance, Latin America, Spanish, Chinese and Japanese. And I'll pick one that I might actually do a video about this. The Momoncan. It's called The Gateless Barrier. Oh, this is comments on the Momoncan. The Momoncan, that's Japanese, means the gateless gate, but originally it was Chinese. And it was actually written in 1228, which is incredible. And it's a collection of little stories. It's part of Zen Buddhist teaching, Chan Buddhism. And it's an endless source of inspiration to me. This edition, edited by Zenke Shibayama and translated into English by Sumiko Kudo. And it's the koans, you know, but they're little stories. And some of those stories are great. They're meant to shift your mental state and your ability to see a different side to nature. Yeah, there's a lot to say about it, so I won't overindulge in that, but that is a wonderful resource. I've actually recorded a whole album of songs based on stories from the Luangkan, Wu Meng Quan in Chinese. So it was originally Chinese, and then but it's mostly known in the Japanese version. But as I say, that's the English translation, obviously. Favorite classics? Well, I think again interpreting classics depends how you interpret that phrase. But if you count classics as things like, you know, the canonical, come on then, literature, then I think probably Dickens, Wordsworth, and those kind of people from the Romantic era, you know, the Shelley, Keats, and Byron as well. But going back, if it's the real classics, high classical literature of Roman and Greek, then it might be Plato. I haven't read all the Plato dialogues, but what I have read is I think it's the Apologia, is it, of Socrates, when he's condemned to death. And that is quite moving and powerful. He's in his cell, he's got visitors coming in to see him. And he's been wrongly convicted. They all know that. Accused of corrupting the youth of Athens. But what he's really been doing is challenging the state. And he begins by talking about that he's shackled in this cell, and he's saying they undo the shackles, and they said, "Oh, isn't it strange when you're under some discomfort, when it's relieved, that the pleasure you get from it," and that philosophical mind to be able to stand back and look at things from a philosophical point of view, even in such a, you know, difficult situation for them. And then, of course, there's a dialogue talking about why he does not want to be rescued, why he does not want to escape. So it's fascinating. So that's the that dialogue of Plato, that particular one anyway. Again, I'm having to look all the time. Favourite modern books? This is one I read quite recently, Barbara Pym, Excellent Women. Now, this is far from modern. It's modern, really, I suppose. When was it first published? 1952. It's absolutely superb, though. It's so good. You wouldn't think so. It's just about lower middle class women getting together. But it is so good. I suppose that's the work of a first class writer. And then here's another one, though. This is much more recent. I really enjoyed this. Max Porter, Lanny. It's about a little boy who, well, it starts, dear Papa Toothwort wakes from his standing nap an acre wide and scrapes off dream dregs, bitumen glistening thick with liquid globs of litter. He lies down to hear hymns of the earth. Tetchy Papa Toothwort should never sleep in the afternoon. He doesn't know who he is. Well, Papa Toothwort is I don't know if Porter invented him, but he's a sort of a Green Man type character, a fictional character, I suppose, from a folk tradition, an old English sort of spirit, pagan kind of character. And there's a little boy in the story who was called Lanny, of course. And begins to communicate with old Papa Toothwort. That Lanny falls down a drain, and there's a big search going on. There's talk about somebody's molested him. There's this art teacher who's accused, and so on. But it all ends, well, I won't say how it ends. I've almost given it away, but it's a beautiful little book. Lovely short novel. So that's that. Then we have literary characters you'd choose as a life partner. Literary characters, life partner. Yeah, it says you could have either gender, but I suppose if you're looking at women, characters from fiction, I think it would need to be, I'd be scared stiff of somebody like Dorothea out of Middlemarch. She'd be too earnest, she'd be too intense. You couldn't live up to her ideals, could you? Mike says Becky Sharp. I don't know. She'd probably murder you, actually. So it's a difficult one. I'll think of somebody when I've finished the video. Probably want to come back and do it, but never mind. It's an interesting thought. Come up with somebody better than that. Actually, the woman from Excellent Women. What's she called? I forget her name now. It's a little bit. It's a few months since I read this. Oh, what about Julia from 1984? We don't really know that much about Julia, though, do we? Anyway, I'll leave that one. I can't think of a brilliant response to that. Which author should write your biography? Well, yeah, it would have to be somebody who would be sympathetic, wouldn't it? I have written a memoir, but it's not a biography really. It's tied up with Whitby Folk Festival, which I've been going to for about 40 years. So the festival during that time, and I'm talking about myself during that time and all that sort of thing. It's just sort of semi little bit. It is autobiographical, but it's only a little aspect of who I am, I suppose. I suppose the if he was ever around would be James Boswell, wouldn't it? But I might let him down. I don't think I'd be as witty as Mr. Johnson, but gonna go for the best. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. Of course, many writers, or many people even, have really resisted anybody writing their biography, dark secrets and all that. If I have dark secrets, then let them out. Why worry about it? Where are we now? 5 dream authors for a booktube. For a booktube live stream. Well, the first one's got to be Samuel Taylor Coleridge, hasn't it? He was a famous talker, Stories about somebody wanting to take his horse into the stables when he'd arrived at an inn, and they stood there talking for about 3 hours. He could talk the hind legs off the proverbial. So he might be good. He'd be interesting. Although, if you look at Biographica Literaria, which is his book about literary merits and things like that. It's a bit impenetrable, so he may be a bit above my level, and he might be a bit religious. That can be a bit off-putting. But anyway, let's say Coleridge. I've been to his cottage in Netherstowey, where we lived for only a couple of years, but he wrote some of his greatest poems there, including this Lime Tree Bower, my prison. And the Lime Tree Bower is still there, so that's a marvellous poem. But yeah, so something to look at. Will Self, a modern novelist, and I saw an interview with him recently. Giles Brandreth interviewing him, and it is brilliant because he's such a witty character. He's been very ill. He didn't look good actually, but as witty as ever, and stuff he came out with just fantastic. I've never met him or anything like that. But he's probably about my age, I suppose. I don't know. But the stuff he was coming out with was just fantastic. He would liven up any situation. So he'd be good on a live stream. Again, he knows far more about books than I do, and he's written some, really great novels as well. Let's see, that's only 2 so far. I think it would be immensely entertaining to have Charles Dickens, though, wouldn't it? We can't leave out Charles Dickens. I think I'm going to put the shades on. It's extremely hot today. Is it too hot for you, Merlin? You want somebody who's lively, somebody who interrupts, comes out with outrageous remarks that make an interesting Booktube video. What these people could say. Arthur Conan Doyle would be good. He'd be fascinating. I've read his biography. Even met Lloyd George and people like that. Moved in high circles. I suppose everybody would say Shakespeare, but that's a bit too obvious. I won't say Shakespeare. Let's have somebody a little bit more. What about Chaucer? I've just read Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, the whole thing. We wouldn't be able to understand him. Well, actually, reading the tales, you do get to grips with the language after a while. The Middle English. Is that 5? I hope so. Anyway, that'll do. But thank you for RiffRaffs. Reading idea, that's a really good idea. It's nice. Farewell.